Have you ever heard that project management is both an art and a science? It's a discipline that requires a lot of skill, but not just skill in Gantt charts and EMV and EVM. It goes beyond just the tools. And that's why the PMI came out with the talent triangle. Those three sides of the triangle are all very important. Technical skills, strategic and business management skills, all of those three prongs, they all need to be in the life of the PM, practiced, learnt, and put into a pragmatic fashion. You know, in the PMBOK Guide, 6th edition, right, they go into a lot of detail about leadership. They go into a lot of detail about how this talent triangle should be present in the mind and the life of every project manager. So this is where I get to ask our special guest, David, what do you think of project management as an art and a science? How does that come across to you?
Great question, Phil. I think it's very important that especially new individuals to be PMP really balance and think about project management both on the science part, which is a lot of your tools, and the fundamentals that PMI has really done a great job in giving tools that work and utilize those tools to help for a successful project. And they are key, whether it's the triple constraints, whether it's using a certain technique, whether it's having here's an example of a risk mitigation plan. Those are all critical items that, you know, a project manager, you know, needs, using a project management software. Those are very critical things to help you organize your thoughts, look at dependencies, see where you're falling behind. Maybe you have to fast track your project. Critical. However, I've seen cases where a project manager has done the basics really well and has missed the mark by 180 degrees because they didn't really understand what the business wanted. And you know, there's a great example out there that's been told several times. There's different versions, but the one where they had a project where they devised with engineers in a firm to put a tracking collar on a moose. And when they started working it, they put it on the moose, and the moose never moved. And they finally went to the moose to see what happened, and the collar was so heavy that the moose couldn't move. And they went to the engineers and say, "Why'd you design the collar this way?" And the first reaction, true story, was, "Who's the moose?" They didn't even know it was designed for the moose. The point is, in all this, you can be on schedule, you can be on budget, you know, you can work that, you can be within scope, not having scope creep, and still miss the mark. In fact, go a step further, what I do, because I have a large client that I support for a number of years in the current large company that I work for, one of the first things I do with a new PM is have them get engaged with working side by sides or getting to know the business. Maybe not across the whole business segment, but at least a segment where they might have projects that I'm going to give them. I want them first to understand a little bit about the business, what they do, how they're successful, what's important to them, even terminology. Because if you can't create that picture and put it in business terms, it becomes really difficult for you to be completely successful.
Absolutely.
And the other side of the art is working with people. And I think this is important. You know, I have certifications in a number of different fields. You know, I have a background that crosses, you know, acquisitions, human resources, Six Sigma, Agile, and now, you know, project management.
So the acquisitions, like, forget, where was that, GE as
Yeah,
well?
I was working in GE.
Wow, you worked across the board there. How many years were you there for?
20 years.
Interesting.
But one of the points that I think is really, I get asked all the time because of the different certifications and the knowledge, is what's the most important certification? And what I say is they're all important, but fundamentally a lot of root cause of project issues and challenges is working with people. If you get down to the root cause, and that's where the soft skills come in. You're working with people, you know, whether it's how do you get them engaged, how do you have the right people at the right time, how can you be collaborative and still make decisions and move it along? Because you can be so collaborative that you have paralysis of analysis.
That's true.
And you also can be where you leave certain key people out. And I think it's really important that you have good communications and good people skills.
Absolutely.
And understand how to work with people. That's where you get the softer skills. And I think both are very critical to be successful, especially for those people that are going to be really a top-notch project manager that are going to be given your most critical projects or your higher risk projects.
Absolutely.
The ability to work both the art and science is key.
So, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, in chapter 3 of this book, the PMIs say that the top 2% of PMs that are voted as being the best by their colleagues, peers, and so on, the bosses, they are great at soft skills and interpersonal skills. But isn't it funny that when we take a look at a lot of professional exams, the first thing that rushes into people's heads is the technical part?
Right.
Do you see that happening in the real world as well?
I absolutely, especially with newer PMs that come in, and it's one of the things that I have to help kind of re-gauge. And one of the ways I do that is sometimes I take some of my more experienced, successful, top-notch PMs and assign them as a mentor.
Okay, that's lovely. Nice.
And in that process, they mentor. But I can tell you, even right now, my top PMs will constantly give advice and counsel about things that a leader or a customer, but a leader of a business line of business should be thinking about. And some of those suggestions are not directly in the project. They kind of indirectly. You should think about maybe, something as simple as outsourcing work to a new organization that's got a big challenge to take on. My project manager would say, why don't you do handwritten notes to every individual of all the work they've done to take on this new work? And so each of the leader team wrote a handwritten note, personalized it, thanking him for this big effort that he took on. And technically, that's not part of a project, but that's the things that start separating the difference. And one more example that I would give is we're very big about establishing a couple key metrics at the start of a project. In one case, the project was, the area that we were challenged was having such a difficult time, it was hard to establish a second key metric. So what we said is, we know it's really bad, so we're going to go ahead and start the project on this anyway, and we will measure, and we know that even if we're not sure where we're starting, we know that if we make the improvement on this date to the project finish, that we show significant value. So sometimes it's doing something that's a little bit different, that doesn't fit the norm, but you're creating value and in terms that the business is going to understand.
Absolutely. These are really, really great points, David. And, a lot of this stuff, it tapers into the next point that we're going to be discussing, which is what really makes a valuable PM? What makes the PM have value? Because, in a lot of organizations, you might have heard PMs of no value. I was actually in a firm right here in Arizona. You'd know them. But anyway, name withheld to protect the innocent. But someone, an executive in the firm, said, Phil, I don't even know why you're here. We can manage our projects ourselves. We don't need PMs. So when we come back, folks, we're going to speak about the value of the project manager. What makes the project manager valuable after all these great skills that David talked about have been, assimilated and are being demonstrated. Beyond that, what really makes a PM have value when we come back?